So here is your link flow distribution for realtor.com, this graph right here. This is a curve that tells us where all the money goes once it comes to realtor.com. So you have all the PR and the backlink structure all linking to different various pages in realtor.com. Once it arrives to the subdomain, where does it go? So for every $100 that we spend on a backlink or PR campaign, how much of that $100 goes to which page and which amount? So you think of it that way. That's a good way to view it. So you can see that, $1.50 goes to the marketing resources page. $1.20 goes to new construction homes for sale. All of this is precisely calculated so that we know exactly what the relative importance of each page is inside the site. Things like the privacy notice highlights. Every $100 you spend on a backlink, you're going to just basically into a black hole. $1 goes because you have a privacy policy page so high up in this link flow distribution. So the goal will be to essentially take these pages. I think number 20, was it 27? Yeah, right here. So here's the mortgage calculator. It's the 27th most important page, but it's only receiving about 0.38%. The reason is because this graph is very flat. So you can see right here it's flat, and pretty much past this point here, all of these pages are considered equal in the eyes of a search engine. So even your long tail page that's already going to rank because there's like only 5 other pages like it on the internet, it's going to be attributed the same amount of link flow value as like a page up here, maybe your mortgage calculator. So the goal is we want to do 2 things. We want to basically change this graph, be looking a little bit more like a bell curve. So we want it to come out a little bit further, and then as it comes down, it's going to cross below this line and almost go to 0. We're basically taking the area under the curve here, and we're going to move it up here. That's the first step. And that's going to do all kinds of cool things like stabilize changes, right? So if we make a change down here, it's not going to affect the page up here. It's making it more hierarchical, so it's more stable. And then it also promotes a lot of these pages at the top that are in the top 20 or top 30. It doubles or triples their effective ranking power. So it's almost like you went out and got 2 times or 3 times the backlinks to these pages. But all you're doing is you're taking your existing backlink structure and repurposing it in using your internal structure. So your internal link navigation is a signal to Google on what you think is your order of importance of pages. And so we can do a cool thing here, whereas we take the mortgage calculator page and we're going to click on the link flow finder. And all we have to do is add a few key links on some pages. We'll then move this from 0.38% to 0.6% or 0.8%. The team will be able to see this in the model as it's changing and see the effect that it has in the overall task and the overall rankings for that ranking blueprint. So you can see this right here. What it's doing is it's taking the page's top embedding cluster. We already went over that, so you know exactly what that is. And it's going and finding a average point in that cluster. So if we clustered the page, and this was like our top cluster, we would pick a point in the middle, and that would be an average. We call it a centroid. It's just another vector that's an average of all the other vectors. And that centroid, we then go and look at all the other embedding content chunks in realtor.com and say, what are the closest embedding chunks around this point? Link flow finder is finding all of the points that would get you a lot of link flow back to this page because it's very relevant. It's scored on a relevancy. So one of the link algorithms when we score links is to see how relevant the anchor text is to the target page and the page that's on. And so we can see right here, it says that if you add a link back to the mortgage calculator from any one of these places, you can dramatically increase where that is on that link flow distribution. So we can move it from the 27th most important page to the 10th or the 5th or whatever we want, whatever is needed in collaboration with the whole picture, right? So we're trying to look at it from a 10,000 foot level, see right where it wants, where it wants you to put the link. So we're using the model on itself to ask, hey, what would happen if I did this, or what happened if I do that? And we're using that model on itself to produce what the most optimum thing to do would be here for this link flow distribution. Again, we want to move that up from 27 maybe to like the top 15 or top 10. And you'll see a huge difference, right? Because it's applied this and notice that all the sites that are ranking really well in the results tend to have their top sites show up as opposed to the 27th most important page show up. Our own site doesn't see this landing page, in this case it's the Rustville landing page, as one of the top pages in the site. And it also tells us in this search result that Google wanted only the top pages from each site. So that's why this link flow distribution was dialed up. It notifies us this. If we start to see this in many different ranking results, then that's great because that means it's it's going to fix the entire site. It's not just one individual page that we're optimizing here. So you can go into this link flow distribution. Let me show you what this looks like. Here's the curve of your distribution, right? So this is the one that gets the most link flow, and then down here somewhere is where we get the least amount of link flow. From a stability perspective, what you want to see is something that looks more like a bell curve. It comes out like that and it comes way down to the bottom, and the long tail is like almost 0. And the reason why that is that you want to make changes on one part of your site and you don't want it to have any effect on the other part of the site. If you have a flat link flow distribution and you change something over here, it's very easy to change something over here accidentally. And so that's the first thing the team will do, is just stabilize your link structure so that into the future, you're not going to have any surprises, right? We're going to build things and we're not going to be like off, making one change and all of a sudden, boom, like half our traffic went down because these 2 pages all of a sudden had a problem. So that's the first thing we want to do. The second thing we want to do is, your page, that this might be a very high revenue page, this Rust page, it's way down here, right? Like it's at the long end of this long tail, getting almost no link flow. So we want to add more link flow to this. And the easiest way to do this, we have this thing called the link flow finder. And this will use that page's top embedding cluster. It's got this average of that cluster, that top page's cluster, and it's going to take that average point, the centroid, and it's going to ask the system, find me all the other embeddings in your site that are close to this point. And so this is what it's done. And it also included the current link flow distribution. So it depends on what page this embedding chunk is on. So those 2 things produce this score that shows you where the most juiciest link you could get in your site to this page. We do this to 1 or 2 key places in the site, and you can easily move this up from 303 to the top of the list. The other thing is, this will also help us understand where we are structuring these versions of the site. Are they in the right amounts? If we're getting most of our revenue from like the French site, the France pages, then that's that's something that we want to put above like another part of the site that doesn't give us much revenue, right? We don't want to say that they're all equal to the search engine. And you can see things where like they're not revenue pages, like the shopping cart, right? So this is like 68 cents out of out of each $100 that you spend on a backlink is just thrown away. How many other, nodes in your link graph are like this, right? We call this internal link loss, because you have a piece of that chunk of pie, but that piece is not going to give you any revenue. So it's like, almost like a black hole. We want to win, and we want to win big first. I'm telling you, we consolidate our link graph, we've got an advantage on them. Look, here's the competitors, and they've left the door open. They have a weakness right now, and the model pointed this out. Every page links out on these links. And that just means that Giovanni could have maybe a third of their link profile, their backlink profile, and still compete. Because when we tighten up our link flow distribution, we're not going to have a flat one. We're going to have, the top revenue producing 90% of the producing pages, really, or at least the workflows there, are going to be at the top of that link flow distribution. For every $1 that we spend on a backlink, we're going to get $5, as opposed to what they're doing, which is just $1.
I've seen, steady increase on those personal, just content sites that are competing for some things they probably shouldn't be.
We literally have like a treasure trove of doing this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's the most reliable thing. Most sites are driven by old school marketing. I want to have all my products on the page. How will you be able to find my other products?
Professional SEO industry interprets what Google puts out, and it turns into bad advice because they don't understand the exact mechanics behind it.
They misinterpret it.
Yeah.
Correct.
No, they told us specifically, we flattened our like page structure and our URL, like / whatever. Everything was flattened out on purpose. We hired all these different experts that have over-optimized in the wrong directions at different times, and they've just been shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly.
Well, think about it. If you're looking outside a black box and you don't see a link flow distribution, right? What is a safe way to do this if you are given the backlinks, right? So if you don't have to worry about a site's backlinks, if you just assume that it's like plenty enough, then the easiest thing to do would be to flatten your link flow distribution. Because if you're wrong about where that page was on the link flow distribution, if it was like down in 200 and it was getting no link flow distribution, well, now flattening, it means that it's worth something, right? Because you've given some of the link flow from the top pages to this page. And so now this page is higher up. It has more chance to rank for its own specific keyword. Is it the global solution for the site? No, right? It's a local solution that works for a specific set of keywords or pages, but the overall maximum solution for the site happens to be something different. It's looking at the link flow distribution and aligning the entire site up with the same curve that you would see with competitiveness on their keywords. You see the same curve in your link flow distribution as that's shown in that screen.
But the hardest part is the humans and convincing them to actually do the right thing that the robots need.
This looks great though for the link flow balance. Like just having it in the right order. This is really good. This is great. Contact down at 39. That's amazing, dude. Yeah, we're gonna have some good movement here.
In progress.
Green. It's all green.
Yeah. Now there's fluctuation, of course, and they get.
Whoa. Just take a picture of that.
Yeah. But every time, like this goes up, all the keywords we're tracking, this is their overall average position. It's going the right direction.
Dude. I mean, I wish I could say I'm surprised, because we've done this so many times. I can't really, but it's just, and it's just one piece of the puzzle here. It's going to allow them to attack the top positions now if we get, all that embedding cluster content alignment happening. at the same time, you're going to have like a pretty big effect.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining us in the world, and welcome to the next edition of the Fireside Chat with Market Brew. Hope you enjoyed that first 10-minute clip where we were actually talking through a potential client's actual information in a demo for them to talk through how link building is something that that Market Brew can absolutely not only understand but help you excel in as a tool in your tech stack. So a couple of quick introductions before we jump into this chat today. If you don't know me, my name's Steve. I have a background in pastoral ministry, which has done great for my sales career. So I've been with the Verizon Business Group and was recognized by Marquis Who in 2024. I only drink snobby coffee and I've had a mustache since as long as I can remember. So the goal is if I can be Santa Claus with this mustache for my grandkids, then I'm crushing life. Next, Scott, who doesn't like to brag about himself, so I will. Carnegie Mellon grad, literally has been in the SEO space for over 20 plus years. He's the CTO and co-founder of Market Brew alongside his wife, Mara. Google Entrepreneurs Advisor. He is the inventor and author of multiple utility patents that Google recognizes, especially around the areas of transparency. Because here's the deal, just because the black box is there doesn't mean that we have to let the airplane crash before the black box is opened. So with Market Brew, Scott developed this truly transparent search engine modeling software that allows people to actually predict where we're going with accurate forecasting, with accurate action steps on how to adjust your on-page, off-page. But the goal is not to do that based upon what the marketing team says or the executive says, but to do that off of what Google says. So we can now zig and zag with Google rather than fighting Google whenever we go across the goalpost. So today, we're talking about the complexity of modern SEO, and the reality is that the SEO landscape continues to evolve quickly. Now that we're on embedding-based classifiers, they're changing how search engines understand links. So now it's not just about having links, but it's about having the right places to align with the content's semantic relevance. So businesses continue to struggle to keep up their traditional link building strategies because they're no longer showing results. So, Scott, help us understand this a little bit more from a technical level.
Yep. Thanks, Steve, and welcome everybody. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of people approach us with a link building background and wondering why things aren't working anymore. And a lot of this has to do with the way that we score links, right? So one of the major algorithms that we use, for instance, is a relevancy link. And in the past, we would have basically a keyword match, right? So we would look at the anchor text, and we would look at a keyword-based approach to classifying text, and we'd come up with a relevancy score. Then with entities, then we had this whole knowledge graph, right? We had topic clusters. We could understand like what's the topic cluster of the target page, and does this entity fit into that topic cluster? Now we have embeddings. And so this is the fourth generation of text classifiers. And so the embeddings gives us multi-dimensional relationships. So it's not just like it's like the entity SEO, times, thousands and thousands of other dimensions of relationships. And so now we're looking at not just individual anchor text, but like the chunk of content or the context window of that link. And so we can see like the semantic space of the context window around that link. And then we can look at the top embedding cluster of the target page. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening. We're going to show you guys some amazing stuff where we can talk about, we show you some free tools to use where you can just put all of your content in and see what these new embedding classifiers look like and what they're looking at. And what subsequently some of these algorithms are looking at as well. So so I think we're going to give you 3 really cool tools or take homes today about links and link graphs before we get into sort of a free tool called our link spotter that we're releasing today. And you can sort of see where this is headed. We're going to show you a whole new way of link scoring and understanding how search engines are now seeing your links. So, Steve.
Well, one thing I failed to neglect at the beginning of the call is that if you have questions, we'd love to make this as interactive as possible. We've got a team behind the scenes who can pop up your question live. So Scott, the brain, can answer all your questions. So don't hold back. Give us your best shot. We'd love to hear from you. We can throw that content up there, rocking and rolling. But as we talk about first principles and link flow distribution, we're actually claiming that this might be the solution, link flow distribution. Because if we start with first principles and then we pair it with calculated link flow distribution, we can improve our site's overall visibility, and really it allows our content to become more manageable. So Scott, whether you are a master at this or a novice at this, just entering into the space, help our viewers understand the link flow distribution model and how this matters for monetary reasons.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing that we always want to look at when we're doing any kind of link building or understanding and characterizing like the power of an individual link or a group of links is the first principles of it, right? So how we score a link. So one of the things that we need to do when we construct a link graph as a search engineer is we need to understand that all of these nodes are connected with these vectors, and we need to understand what that vector is. And so we have to have some scoring system that weights links relative to other links on a page. So you'll have a pie of 200 links on a page, and we will run these calculations with all these different link characterizations and classifiers, one of which is something that just changed very, very dramatically, actually, within the last year. And so now we have a new relevancy type classifier that now changes the way that those links are all scored. So some links may now be not as powerful as they were before. And so now you have a totally different looking link graph from what you assumed was already happening. So it's going to be a matter of just kind of recalibrating what Google is actually looking at and sort of understanding as a search engine, because your internal link structure is essentially telling Google a specific story. It's saying, for every $100 that comes into my site, whatever link comes into whatever page in my site, how much of that goes to which page and where. And so in this case right here, you can see, this one had about $2 and change go to their top page, but quickly drops off and then just becomes flat, right? So every page is just looking exactly the same as the one next to it. So we're going to be able to see sort of understanding the first principles of that link scoring, where you can see individual link flow share for each individual link by looking at these link scorecards, where you can see that each link is going to be evaluated to the other link. So if, for instance, if you're a 20-point font, but everything else on the page is 60-point, then that's not a good font to have, right? It's a very small font to the reader. So all of these things, if you look at reciprocity or editorialness, or, we even do site-wide reciprocity. So you can have a link to a different page, and then that link, some other page links back to it. So there's all these link characteristics that you can write to score the link. And once we're done with that, it's like an iterative process that eventually ends after the result doesn't change by a certain amount, and you just terminate that calculation. You have this graph of understanding which link is more important than another link. And so when we have that, we can create these very precise link flow distributions. It allows us to understand where each page is on that link flow distribution. So you can see, hey, this page that's like our top revenue producing page, it's like the 11th most important page. So why is it only getting 11th most important link flow from all the other pages? That all this PR and everything we're spending, we're trying to capture that audience, and we're just kind of throwing it away. We're throwing it into other pages that won't give us any revenue. So that's the idea behind this, is that we eventually break this down in a way that we can understand the sort of science behind it, understand what links are more important than others. And the next step, I'll let you kind of chime in here, Steve, but we'll be talking about that flat link flow part of that curve that we just saw. So some of the things that we would look at and what you should look at when you're designing your internal link structure. So.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it seems like optimizing link flow distribution is the goal here. But what's a good example of a flat link structure versus an optimized link structure, just to show our viewers kind of what those two different models could look like?
Sure. So basically, with this curve that we discussed before, this is a very flat link flow distribution. What that means is that one individual each page on the site is literally shown as an equal to all the other pages. And so some of the things that can happen in these situations is you can be changing part of that link flow distribution somewhere on that curve, right? One page that you're changing, and that can have a huge effect on the other part of the site, right? Just inadvertently, because that's so unstable, if you want to think of it that way. And so what we want to do is sort of convert a lot of the area underneath that curve up to the top part of the site. So you end up with more of like a bell curve looking distribution, where the top 10%, hopefully like the 90% of your revenue producing pages are all within that top group. And the goal is really, we're trying to mimic your competitiveness curve, right? So you have a keyword of universes that people are going to be coming in the door, and you want to see that competitiveness curve line up exactly with your link flow distribution. So that would be the ultimate efficient link flow distribution looking curve. So that's the thing that we want to always look at. Some things that we can do to tighten up this is we can consolidate the link graphs. So that means that in your navigation, if you've got 200 links in your navigation, not a great idea, right? So we want to be able to consolidate that by only having a certain amount of links appear on every page. And then only in those links where you click into, then we can expand into all of the subcategories that you would want to slam into that mega menu. So that would be an example of tightening that up when making it less flat, right? So because if you linked every other page on each page in your site, that is the ultimate flat link flow distribution, right? So that's sort of what we talk about when we're talking about flat versus an optimized link flow distribution. So.
Okay, so then let's take this next talking point we have here. Why meta robots doesn't mean out of the graph. So tell me more about these meta robot tags and maybe some of our misconceptions we have as SEO professionals.
Sure. So you can look at these graphs. There's some really interesting things you'll find. Here's an example of what we call internal link loss. And this is essentially a part of your graph where you're getting all this PR and backlink structure into your subdomain. And there's part of your internal graph that's just sort of, it's pushed some value into that, but it's not doing anything for you. So for instance, right here, by adding a meta no index tag, but it's still a follow page, right? It still calls it and follows those links off to another page. That is now still a node in the link graph. And the way that the PageRank calculation works, even after the 2010, reasonable surfer patent addition to that, is that that will create a node in that link graph, and it contains some of that pie, right, of that total pie that you have coming into the to the site. So we call this internal link loss, and you can kind of see an example of this by just seeing that, in this case here, these were sandwiched between number 12 and number 13 in the model. So they had a significant amount, like $1.50 out of every $100 that you would get on backlinks coming to your site. $1.50 would just be thrown away into these. And this is probably not the only two pages that they were doing this with. So when we find these things, obviously it's very important to see if it's like a template or site-wide issue.
So if we continue to move into here, what Market Brew is starting to do, which I'm really excited about, is to continue to release free tools for people who still may be on the fence. Our tool is one of the most unique on the marketplace because of its predictive nature. But a lot of people still maybe don't believe that to be true. So in our efforts to help evangelize and persuade people, Scott, tell us a little bit more about Link Spotter, this new tool that you built, and how it can be helpful for people who think Market Brew might be a fit for their organization.
All right, so we created a really cool tool for you guys. And if you can get your quotas lifted as well, if you just add a link to the tool, there's a little thing that allows you to verify that, and you get a like 10 times quota if you do that. This tool will basically show you what's happening here. with the new embedding classifiers with relevancy and links. So here is the anchor text challenge, is that this relevancy calculation is changing. We can see this chart, this legacy chart of all these text classifiers, right? We had TF-IDF in 1997-ish, Alta Vista days. Around 2003, we had the keyword density classifiers, and the anchor text distribution was all added at that point. And then, 8 years ago, we have the entity SEO, where we can all of a sudden understand relationships, and we can use tools like Sparkle and Wikidata and DBpedia Snapshot and all these things that we can understand and extract and disambiguate these entities and understand all the. And then you have 3 years ago, the paper in 2017, attention is all you need, and all of a sudden you have these large language models and these transformer models come to the scene, and you have this explosion of understanding context windows and embedding clusters in these semantics points of 1,500 plus dimensions. So it's just an incredible, a huge advancement that has happened over the last, just 3 years. And so just really quickly before we get into the link spotter tool, just so you guys, if you haven't heard about embeddings, I'll just really quickly understand that embeddings is just taking a piece of content and converting it to a vector. So it's just an array of digits. And this vector represents a point in space across a multi-dimensional space. I'll show you a very dumbed down version. This is 3D, but it's, in our system, it's like about 1,500 dimensions. So it's mind boggling to try to understand this, but if you can see, this is what it kind of looks like on a page. So every point represents a chunk of the content on that page. And so we can cluster these things because there's just math at that point, right? Once they become a vector, we can do all this matrix multiplication and addition and all this stuff that allows us to understand. We can do, in this case, a k-means algorithm that allows us to, group the points in space in 3 different groups. And so now we know, for instance, if we get a piece of content that it's about to come back into the AI overview system, and we can write an algorithm, we can say, hey, is this chunk of content part of the top page's embedding cluster? If it's not, don't return it. So these are the algorithms that allow us to understand and classify, and these parlay into all these other algorithms, including link algorithms. So this is sort of the lead up into this tool where we can see this. And so I'll show you at the end where you can go find this. Let me actually put up the other banner here. I think I should have that. There we go. So you can see.
And Scott, real quick, before
Yeah.
you jump into the tool, we do have our first question coming in from Can Mentes. So real quick, before we hop into the tool, let's answer this one. So Can, thanks for writing in. For all you people out there with questions, type them in. We'll get them to you live here. But how does link relevancy work in non-English languages? So how does this work kind of across all the languages of the world?
That's a great question. So one of the most amazing parts of this, I really think it's just a freebie to search engineers, is that we've always struggled with different character sets. The entity SEO, the entity-based knowledge graph, the stuff that we model. We have a thing called Spotlight Focus, what does all the entity disambiguation and structure and topic clustering and all that stuff. But it depended on the knowledge graph. And the problem is that outside of the US, the knowledge graph wasn't as structured and developed enough as the one in the US. And so these algorithms didn't work very well on some of these international SERPs. And so with the embeddings don't care about character sets. It works no matter what it even picks up the local dialects, local things just that you wouldn't know as living in a different area. And now all of a sudden, it's just picking up on all these little things that in the writing for that local area. It's just incredible. So yes, that's why these embedding algorithms are infiltrating in every part of our search engine right now, because it solves problems quicker. It's more enhanced. You can see exactly what that semantic space is, what's that point in space. And we have this tool that allows us to measure, other points in space. So we have this thing called cosine similarity, and that cosine similarity can measure even in this, 1,500 plus dimensional space. It measures the angle between the two, which represents sort of like how close it is. And so that's basically what it's doing. It's just creating this a picture of all these multi-dimensional relationships. You know, it's not just the individual anchor text that you're linking, but it's the content around that link and what semantic space that it consumes. So.
Great, thanks, Scott. Let's check out this link spotter.
Okay, yeah, so let's get into this. So when you go to the tool here, you're going to be able to put in a target URL, and this is going to be the target page of the link. So let's just assume right here, in this case right here, I want to get a link to marketbrew.ai. And so I put my source content in, right? Sorry, my target URL in, and the system is going to go crawl that page, and it's going to chunk the page up into embeddings. It's going to create a k-means algorithm to cluster those embeddings. It's going to find the top embedding cluster on that page. It's going to create a centroid of that top cluster. So it's an average vector of all the other vectors in that top cluster. And then it's going to do a little trick. It's going to go and do this to all the source URLs that you're about to put in here. It's going to do the same thing for those pages as well, but it's going to go find the chunk of content that would be the closest cosine similarity to the top cluster's centroid. So it's basically using our link scoring on itself. We're asking our link scorer, what would give you the most link flow off of this page, and like basically steal the link flow away from other links on that page. So that's what this link spotter is doing. And you can see once you've added the target URL, you can go in and add up to 5 source URLs. They can be on your own site, or they can be on a different site, right? If you're considering different backlinks and in different places that you want to use this in, there's a lot of different ways that you would use this. But once you have this, you can come in here and look at where each row represents a chunk of content that you need to add the link to. So somewhere in that chunk of content, you want to add that backlink. So this is showing you exactly where that is. And if you click on that, it'll highlight the chunk of content so you can see on the page where it is. But somewhere in there is basically, that's where the context window should be to maximize the most amount of link flow going through that specific link. So you can go to the Market Brew site and click on free SEO tools and guides. And you're going to go to like all these really cool tools, the AI Overviews Visualizer, a cosine similarity matrix. You can put in a URL and a list of keywords, and you can see the matrix of how all those keywords hit all the different chunks of content on your page. And then finally, link spotter. Link spotter is sorry, I missed one, the spotlight visualizer as well. So we can do the entity-based SEO tool there, and then also the link spotter. So link spotter is free, and you can again, you can get your quota lifted if you just add a link to this, say, hey, how cool is this? Add a link to this to the tool somewhere, and then you can just put that URL into the system. It'll verify it and it'll lift your quota. So if you go into any of the tools and have any questions, you can always just sort of go back to the site. If you guys want to just have us do everything for you, you just click on, get a demo, and we'll just set up a quick demo to show you sort of like, with your own data, what it's going to look like. And we'll give you all the opportunity to understand all the things that we do on top of all of this data. So Steve, I'll turn it over to you. Hopefully we have lots of questions. And
I think we have a shy audience today. Can was the only one who threw in a question. So I'll poke and prod. If you have any questions for the brain, he's here. You have his full attention. So please type in your questions if you have any. But again, these free tools are meant to, like, I'm a culinary guy. I live in Portland. So like, this is where the land flowing with milk and honey. Okay. Like, there's great food all over the place. And if you're familiar with dining, they have this thing called the amuse-bouche. It's like this one little bite you get before you start this amazing meal. We want these free SEO tools to be that little amuse-bouche for Market Brew. Market Brew is this revolutionary tool that truly claims to be predictive and actually executes on that. So here's the deal. If you're interested in figuring out more about Market Brew and how this tool might fit into your tech stack, just book a discovery call with me. When you click request a demo, you get 15 minutes of my time. We'll talk through some packages. We'll talk through some problems, some pain points, or some successes you've had that you want to continue to launch into. And in that regard, we'll get you a demo with Scott to talk through a website of your choosing. Could be yours, could be a competitor's. But we really believe that this tool can change the SEO game. And we continue to hear more and more in the SEO world that this tool is something, even the free tools that we have to offer are helping to change the game for some clients, just even from a recent call this morning. So again, if you're interested, feel free to request a demo with us. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Also, selfish plug, if there's any of you that are going to Brighton SEO in San Diego next week, I will be there and would love to grab a beer with you, would love to get to know you a little bit and just see if there may be some opportunity here. So feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, or feel free to send me an email at steve.pyfrom@marketbrew.com, and would love to see if our team can serve your team. So I did my rant, and good news, Scott. AJ jumped in. AJ, appreciate you, bro. Here's what he says. Is this tool more useful for internal link structure or securing the right external links to the right pages / embeddings on our site?
It can be both. So, we don't have the link flow distribution is really a site-wide thing. So that's really only in our tool that's for our paying clients, where they can see, the entire site's link scoring. But the link spotter tool can definitely help you, no matter, even if it's your internal linking. Basically, if you know that this page is just suffering and it doesn't seem to be competing as well, you could try getting it more link flow by just using this on this tool, and just you can immediately tap into the existing backlink structure that you have and pull out some of that link flow to whatever target that you want. If it's a backlink, you can be very sure as to where you'd like that link to occur in that mention, or what kinds of things are you talking about in that mention, right? So it's the sentiment and the context window that you're really targeting. So it'll help you understand sort of why what our model prefers based off of these calibrated models that we do every day for our clients.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. It appears that our crowd of quiet, shy SEO people continue to be quiet. So nonetheless, if you guys still have questions, feel free to reach out to me or Scott after the call. We would love to be helpful in that regard. But AJ and Can, thanks for the interaction today. We will have another fireside chat here happening in 2 weeks. Scott, do you want to give them a little bit of a teaser of where we're going to be going next?
Yeah, so the hottest thing right now in Market Brew is our SEO forecasting calculator. We've made it available for free after the custom demos. So we give you a demo, we show you sort of what's happening with all of the tasks for one specific SERP, and you get a free calculator to kind of play with. What if you'll see the opportunity cost for each of these tasks, how many tasks you have to do to move up to whatever specific position you're in. We'll talk all about the science behind how this all works and how it calibrates against a real model, and model changes in real time. So all of that will be available in the next upcoming fireside chat.
Fantastic. Well, if you joined us today, thanks so much. We will have a replay coming your direction for those who registered and were not unable to make the call. But again, guys, we're super excited to Greg wants to network with me at Google I/O. Scott, will you approve budget for me to fly to Google I/O and meet with Greg? He's asking.
You got it. You got it.
Greg, you heard that. You heard that. So guys, again, would love to grab some time with you if it makes sense. Feel free to reach out, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Cheers.
Cheers.